Um, Man, well, we're back again. We're hosting today, having a conversation about the Black experience in the wellness industry. Tonight, we're offering, during this series specifically, we're offering an opportunity to listen, to learn, break into small groups, and pretty much just have a conversation about how we can move forward genuinely. So if you are in this space to just listen only and just take the information in and see how you can implement it moving forward, that's great. If you're here to, have these discussions and really like chime in and really get some things going, because maybe it's already been on your heart, amazing. And then setting the plans for moving forward can look any way. And so we're going to talk about those things tonight. Now, today we are going to focus on the experience in the industry from the Black woman's perspective and how we can mobilize moving forward. If you guys weren't here last week, I just kind of want to talk a little bit more about the reasoning that we're here today too. aSweatLife. We, of course, like to try new things, meet new people, but more than anything, the aSweatLife community has poured into me and a lot of my fitness goals and a lot of things that that I've been doing on the personal career level. And it's been like a very, very uplifting and enthusiastic community that has poured into me, but at the same time, I've poured into them on multiple levels as well. And so with this, it's definitely due time to have these conversations, specifically too in our own community, because the representation is important on every level, no matter what community you're involved in, and we all can always do better. And so we all know, though, the last few weeks, things have been tough. Things have been difficult. It's been some really, really wild and interesting couple weeks, because even just a couple of months, because we have a pandemic going on, but at the same time, we have this unrest and this sort of reckoning about what's been happening in America in general, just from even the beginning of time. And specifically for Black Americans and racism and inequality issues that we face pretty much every day has been a thing that we've had to live with and has been our truth and our reality for some time. And it's been a lot of spaces where we haven't been able to have these conversations, but only in spaces that are more comfortable. So, it's hard. Like, I can honestly say, even the people that I know within this community, I may go to specific people, in particular Black Americans, to have these kind of conversations, because we're on the same level. Most of the time we understand that we are hurting, we're struggling, we're trying to get through and make things work and push past all of the difficulties and the challenges that we have as Black Americans, no matter how accomplished or successful we are. And so, this issue has been around since the beginning of time, and it's something that has been our reality. And so with us inviting you all into this space, for us, it's a space of protection, especially for women, because we are nurturers, we are protectors. And so when we invite people into this space, we're very, very protective over it. And so I just want to put that out there, because it can be triggering, and I just want this space to be as real as possible for anybody that we invite to have the conversation. And I just want everybody to open their ears, open their hearts, open their eyes, and really connect with us. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I really appreciate everybody kind of like chiming in the chat. I see a lot of people. We got some people from different cities too, so I love it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to ride right into our conversation, because we have a couple of things to take care of this evening. All right, so to get things going, we want to get to know our folks that we have joining our conversation today. So first, let's start with Ashley Mitchell. And then we have Ashley Wade. I can kind of give you guys the whole spiel on them, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Ashley Mitchell. I'm going to have you take the mic and just tell us about yourself, tell us about your background and about the work that you do now. And then we'll hand it over to Ashley Wade.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Marquita. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Mitchell. I'm coming to you from Boston. So it's 7:16 here, so it'll be getting dark soon while we're on this call. So I hope I still look cute once the light starts to go down. So I'm a fitness instructor in Boston. I teach at Barre's. I'm currently furloughed. So I've taught at Orange Theory, I've taught at Soul Cycle, and I've sort of settled at Barre's because it felt like the best, most understanding and diverse place that I could be in the Boston area. And I say that with hesitation because it's not true, but we'll probably get into that later. I also have my own company called The Courage Campaign. I basically use movement and journaling to teach people how to transform fear and how to move through anxiety and how to live with more courage. I do this with adults and most dear to my heart. I also do it with kids K through 12 in the Boston area, mostly in underserved neighborhoods. So it's really, really special and meaningful. I'm not sure what your school systems are like where you're from, but here, a lot of kids don't even get physical education. It's not a requirement in Massachusetts. So it's really special to be able to bring some part of me to students who wouldn't normally have it. And I think that's it. I think you'll learn more about me as we continue to go. So thanks.
Okay, let me unmute myself. Okay, guys, so my name is Ashley Weaver, but you can still call me Ashley Wade. That's my maiden name. I was married 2 years ago. I'm from Detroit. I've been living in Dallas, Texas. Well, I actually live in a more suburban city, but I'm going to say Dallas, Texas for about 10 years. I'm a former Mavericks dancer. I also model for a modeling agency here called the Campbell Agency. I've been a certified trainer here for about 9 years. I've worked in both commercial gyms, and then from there, I started my own business just because I just wanted to go the more entrepreneurial route. And right now, my focus, prior to me having kids, I was focusing on fitness for everyone, but now I really like to focus on women's fitness, prenatal, postpartum, prepping the body for having a baby, and just maintaining that wellness all around for women. And as far as my modeling goes, I have worked for several companies: Nike, Adidas, New Balance, JcPenney's, Shape Magazine, bodybuilding.com. I'm currently partnering with Fabletics. So I've worked with a lot of different brands and just experienced a lot of things, both good and bad. But I'm not gonna throw brands under the bus either. But yeah, I've had some experiences. But that's it. I'm a mom of two. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So we have some very, very well industry involved and enthused and professionals here. So what I want to do is I just want to talk about first your experience in the barriers of entering the fitness industry as a Black woman. And we can kind of keep going with the flow of if Ashley Mitchell, if you want to go first, and then Ashley Weaver, you want to go second.
Sure. So interestingly enough, I did not set out to be a fitness instructor or a part of fitness in any way. My father was a professional boxer, so athletics was very much a part of the fabric of my family and the fabric of how I grew up. But I'm 33 and I'm from a small town in New Jersey. So no one was a fitness instructor. No one would make a living running around a room screaming on a microphone. So I didn't even know that that was an option. So once I realized that I wasn't good enough to be an Olympic track runner, which was probably in 10th grade, I started to focus on something else that I love, which was theater. So I went to undergraduate for acting, and I started graduate school for acting, which brought me to New England because I was going to Brown to get my master's. And during a movement class, one of my classmates threw a wrestling mat at my head and gave me a concussion. And I was like, you know what? I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I don't like this. This is stupid. I'm wasting my time rolling around on the floor with like weird actor people. So I was like, I'm going to go back to, don't tell anyone I said that. I was like, I'm going to go back to fitness, which like feels more grounded in who I am. So I got my personal training certification, and then some girl in my class was like, you should try SoulCycle. And I'm like, oh my God. So I try this class in California where everyone is like blonde and skinny and white and like dripping in diamonds. Like if you've been to SoulCycle, you know exactly the kind of woman I'm talking about. And that woman is not me at all. And while I didn't feel comfortable in the studio because I felt so other, I fell in love with the fact that I was seeing in real time on a podium a job that had married a performance aspect with a fitness aspect. And I was like, holy shit, like that's me. Like someone's doing what I want to do. And so I started working for Orange Theory, and then I auditioned for SoulCycle and didn't get in. And then I auditioned again and they let me in. And then I found that many of the Black women that I worked with in Boston were really unsupported, which ended up happening to me. And I was like, okay, well, you know, this isn't a place where I feel like I can fly. But I was so new in my career and SoulCycle was so big that I felt no one was hearing me. No one was hearing me say that I don't feel supported, and I don't feel mentored, and I don't feel seen, and I don't feel heard, and my body hurts, and I'm not just a machine on a bike, right? All these things that were just sort of squashed. And so it wasn't until I started teaching Barre's that I felt like I was starting to be heard. It's been a journey of being seen and not seen, and heard and not heard, and gaslighted and supported, and just it's been a time, and I wouldn't trade it, but it has been a time for sure.
Yes. I Ashley Weaver, you want to chime in?
Okay, so my experiences have been a little bit different because I haven't done a lot of instructing at a studio. I think I've only worked at one studio as a group fitness instructor. It was a Barre studio. And of course, the population, excuse me, that's my 3-year-old. The crowd, it was definitely all white. I was the only drop of color. Look. Logan, okay. Everybody giggle with Logan. Okay, let's go in there with daddy. Go in there with daddy. sorry, lost my whole train of thought, like everything I was talking about. But anyway, so yeah, I was an instructor at one bar studio. I did notice there was no Black women that came in the studio at all, no Black teachers. The only Black people that I saw come in there were the people that I literally had to personally reach out to and say, hey, you guys need to join me in a workout. It was almost one of those things where I don't know if Black women weren't interested in doing it, or maybe they weren't marketed to or whatever, but I just didn't see enough of me. But with that being said, I used that and I allowed myself to shine, like regardless. I wanted to be the top instructor at that studio, like no matter what. There's nobody in here my color, but I am going to shine. And it was a great experience for me. And the women that I worked with, they were, for the most part, they were really supportive to me. Now, there was one bad seed, and she called me ghetto, and I was highly offended by that. And it wasn't even me using slang, anything that would really make her call me ghetto. I think that we were doing a little dance and I did something like this and she said, "Oh, you're so ghetto." And so I was just like, okay, number one, we have to learn to use terms the right way. And because styles are different, that doesn't make them ghetto. And so I had to teach her that lesson, and then the staff, the manager, she had to say something to her about it too. So it got a little uncomfortable, but that was my only experience working in an actual like group fitness setting. But I also do personal training. So I go to my clients' residences, and I really like that. This is my small business that I do. I've built up a nice clientele working in the more ritzier area of Dallas. And, even though I've been doing it for years, I do feel, sometimes when I walk into the room, the people who live there, like other residents, they leave when I walk in. They just they don't want to be in the same room as me. And these are older people, older white people with money. So it's like, I can understand why they do that, but I just think it's so stupid. And it's something that I'm sure has been ingrained in them for years and years and years to just naturally do this. They don't speak to me. And they don't acknowledge me at all. I will walk in the facility, hey, good morning. I don't get acknowledged because I'm that one random Black trainer that comes into their $1 million property, $1 billion property, but then there are times where, people are very friendly to me, but it's just, you have those moments where you run into those people and it can be very uncomfortable. It makes you feel like you are not wanted. You are not supposed to be there. And I'm like, I am hired by someone in this building to do a particular job. I am supposed to be here. This is where I belong. But sometimes I'm not treated as such, even if I'm a paid contractor. And that, sometimes that bothers me a lot. And then as far as the modeling industry, what I've been learning thus far, even though things have gotten a lot better, but when I first started, it was 10 years ago. So, there couldn't be multiple Black women working on a set. It was always just one. It was one. And it was either the Black woman that's very light skinned with the curly hair who almost looks kind of racially ambiguous, or it was the very dark Black woman that, may have extinctions or whatever, but there was no variety. Me in between, there was no me. And so I felt like I was always trying to just kind of break in, because I'm like, well, I'm not super dark or I'm not really light, and sometimes they wanted the really dark girl to represent the Black. And so I was just like, gosh, like, why can't we just have multiple of each people? And so I just learned that A lot of companies, they do not diversify their models. Lately, over the years, I have been noticing a difference, but yeah, initially it was really hard. Or, you know, you couldn't be a little curvy. Like the booties that people are working every day, they're literally working their asses off, y'all. Like, well, they're working their asses on. Like people are really trying to build these booties, right? Well, when I started, it was not like that. I could not be the Black girl on set with a plumper butt. You know, I had to be small. I couldn't be too curvy because then, oh, it might not appeal to the audience or the group of people that buy these particular clothing. So me, I would just lose tons and tons of weight. I was so small, and I was just like, well, I can't lift heavy in my legs because I don't want to be too curvy, or, I don't want to build my legs up that much. I won't get the job. And I just felt like I was changing myself so much to book these jobs. And after a while, I just let go because I'm like, if a company doesn't want to accept me for how I come, then it's not worth me working for them, and helping put more money in their pocket. And, they don't really even, they can't appreciate me, how I look. So that has been my experience thus far. And, I've learned a lot, but, I've also had some experiences where companies have they accept me for who I am. So I've gotten both sides of it all.
Yeah. So to talk about a little bit from what both of you guys said, one of my first experiences after I got certified and things like that was I stepped into a space where I got to kind of pretty much be contract based and kind of teach different classes in the city and things like that. But one of my experiences at a studio, I want to say about 6 months in, I felt that strain and that eye staring me down and people questioning me and my decisions, even on my class themes and like how I dressed and even just like what I posted on even my social media. And so it came to a point where I clashed with one of the people that were that worked in the studio, not necessarily someone that was a boss, but someone that I had to work with. And for me, I was in a space where I have another full-time job. And for me, fitness was like an outlet, first and foremost. And it was something that was a space for me to relieve stress. It was a space where I just can rock and roll. And it was like that space of like, wow, like this really is a highlight of my day. And it means a lot for me to be a productive person every day, to include even an hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes of fitness in my life. And so when I became a professional in it, and then stepped into that arena of like, hey, like, let's check out a studio to work at. It probably took maybe 6 to 8 months where I felt that strain of like, I couldn't really fully exist there. And I decided that it wasn't for me, because at the end of the day, like in fitness in general, I feel like that is a space that you should be able to be fully yourself. And it's pretty much almost like your own mini company within, say, like if you're teaching at a studio or for a company and that type of thing. And so for me, I just got out of there. I was just like, what, instead of having bad blood, because I am across different sectors of fitness, running, things like that, I don't want to leave any bad blood. But for me, it was like I had to leave a company because of the issues that somebody has with me, because of just who I am, what I want to bring to the experience there. And it's not like, hey, like let's sit down and kind of work together. It was no, or what are you talking about, or I don't understand that. And then it's and I'm giving you guys these expressions because this is what we get: a professional Black woman walking into a space, and we get people looking at us like we're a 6-year-old in preschool. Like, what does that even mean? How, like, what do you like, and you're inside, honestly almost just want to explode and burst out, because you're like, I'm in shock that some other professional grown adult is speaking to me in this way. And so, you know, you know, for in that experience, you know, I just decided that it wasn't for me. But just in general, like when I spoke last week about some of the trainers that I worked out with before, moving to Chicago after undergrad, everything in fitness was white. Every single thing. Any room I walked into was white, from the world that I was involved in with Nike to being a run club pacer. Those early years were predominantly white. And so for me, I'm from Savannah, Georgia, went to Michigan State for school, predominantly white school, but I'm a Delta, and I am in the world of Black culture deeply. Hey, y'all, go green. And for me, it's important because fitness in general to Black Americans, that's a world that a lot of us don't necessarily interweave into our lives. And so for me, I know the importance of having that in your life. And so I'm like, hey, let's pull my community into this space too. So slowly but surely, because of me or other people that I knew in the community, we would rally and try to bring people into the spaces and places that were offered to all these other people that we knew, you know, other nationalities too, not just white. And so, you know, when you walk into these places with only one color and it's like just a couple of us there, it's one of those things that you're like, wow, like this is a great opportunity to be here. You're offering all these free services, you're offering this, you're doing this. And I feel like, why isn't other minorities, other communities, other people of color, why aren't they here? And they should be experiencing it too. So that was one side of it. And then another side of it is I worked the front desk at a facility that, for me, when it comes to working out, that's like a space where I can disconnect all the politics, all the drama, all the craziness. And I'm there because I love to work out. Like, I am about working out. That's specifically what I'm there for. Everything else, I have a whole world outside of this. And so a lot of the things that happened around me while I worked at the front desk was just, it was ugly. It was a lot of things happening that was not okay. And specifically when it came to even how they dealt with and addressed if diversity was even brought up in a conversation. You know, you have companies that want to do, oh, we're going to recognize Black History Month after a couple of people said, hey, like, why don't we do this? And like Ashley Mitchell, you mentioned, eventually people may, you know, hop on board, or, you know, you feel somewhat supported at a certain point. But for me, stepping into a space at a company where you're like, okay, I love this workout so much, I'm around these people, you know, I'm pouring into this space, they're pouring into me. But at the same time, if I have a situation where I can't, you know, say, offer up the amount of time that you need for me to be a trainer. So like I said, I have another job, and this particular place, it became an issue because for me to be a trainer, I need X amount of time available, but this is what I can give you. But then if I see another person that comes right after me with only X amount of time that they have available to be a trainer, but they hop right on the roster, and they hop right back into it and become a trainer. And so then I'm looking and I'm questioning, like, wait, what's really going on? What's really happening? And so it's a lot of, why can't I exist how I am and have a schedule and have things going on and everything? You can work with me. Why is it that you can't work with me, but then you can work with other people? And I'm seeing this. And so that is a lot of what's been happening for me when it comes to like being on the professional side of fitness. And so I kind of want to go into talking about, you guys tapped on kind of like just image and what we see and what we don't see. And so I just want to dive a little bit more into, like, we talked about like our hair, we talked about our body shape, even our personality, we talked about. And I want to know, with our existence in the wellness industry, do you guys feel like like what specific things can brands and companies and things like that do better when it comes to the images that they show, how they portray us, how they support us when it comes to our image, the content, our race, our personality, like how can they do better, or have they done better, and what things have they done that has been a great path for moving forward?
I just want to see people who look like me a little more often. I think it's, for me, it's that simple. In the same way that I never had any example of a fitness instructor until I was in graduate school, right? Like, think about all the people who never see examples of what they could be or what the world actually looks like. It's not even about, in my opinion, it's not even about my feelings as a Black woman, but it's also so much bigger than me in the macro sense of like, what are the images that we're telling our country and the world and young girls and young boys, like, what are we upholding as normal and acceptable? And why am I not included in that? And people who look like me not included in that. And so I'm hoping that going forward, that's what I see. And I hope also too that that all of the parts are celebrated, right? Whether I straighten my hair or whether I wear my hair natural, or whether I'm 120 pounds like when I first started, or if I'm 140 pounds where I'm at now, right? Because what feels healthy and fit and good to me is valid. I'll give you an example. I am doing a running photo shoot on Wednesday, and I have like a really shitty knee injury and I can barely run, but I'm going to do a running shoot. Like, when I go down the stairs, my knee hurts. I know for a fact that it is going to give out on Wednesday during this shoot. But I also know that if I don't go do this shoot, there's no other Black girl that's going to be represented. So it's more important to me to be behind the camera than it is for me to say no and take care of myself and wait to heal my body because people need to see someone who looks like me. My jersey is coming out. I'm like smacking my kitchen table. But people need to see people who look like me. It's just, that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing. Like, inclusion is major. Like, when you start to diversify your workplace, hire more staff, then hire more staff of color, then I just feel like you're broadening the range of opportunities for people, and everybody should have equal opportunities. And the thing is, we've been saying this for 50 trillion years. Like, we all need equal opportunities. Like, I just feel like it makes you feel so unwanted when you walk into a place and there is nobody else that looks like you, no staff, no nothing. It's like, do they really want you to be here or not? You start really questioning that. Like, what are their values? And, how important do they see diversity in the workplace? Do they think it's important at all? And I like, this is a major thing for me because I have kids and I want my kids to grow up in a world where they feel like they can do things, like they can do certain things and they don't have to be limited because they're like, well, I'm Black, so that's probably not going to fit me, or, I won't get accepted here because I'm Black. I don't want the thought to ever cross their mind. And so I feel like that's what companies need to be focusing more on. And I've seen it over the years. There's more diversification going on, but we still have a lot of work to do. I mean, since George Floyd, I've honestly been contacted by a few more companies to work with. And that really did, it made me feel good because I was like, okay, you know what? Here it is. They're trying to diversify. And that's what we want. Like, please just start offering opportunities or speaking on it, you know, to other people to get more diversity in your workplace, in your studios, in your workout groups, in all of that, you know, like we just need to come together more. That's it. I don't want to sit on my soapbox for too much longer because Ashley really said everything that I wanted to say.
Yeah, you guys are saying a lot of great things. And just to talk a little bit more about that too, a lot of these spaces, say in particular, say like a Barry's boot camp in Chicago, like they represent a community that has been reaching and wanting equality. And so I think even in a space like that, if I'm working at a studio like this and you guys are reaching for equality for a particular group, then why is it not being shared or given to other groups that are under the same systematic issues that you guys are dealing with? And so we can talk, that can be a whole nother thing. Actually, next week we have someone that's going to be hopping into the conversation to talk about just that arena for queer Americans, and a couple of other leaders are going to join the conversation. But it's interesting when you have the colorism and when you have specific things going on within smaller communities, within the communities that already have a strain on them from systematic oppression and things like that, say like the LGBT community or Black women, like you said, Ashley, have a dark-skinned woman and a light-skinned woman, and those women have in the past or even just like in history have been pinned against each other. And so my thing is when you choose to hire people that represent different communities, you need to make sure that every single voice is heard. And anytime a manager, somebody on staff, anybody brings an idea out, it should all be respected. In particular, when you're dealing especially with staff, everybody down to the maintenance facilities crew all the way up to the CEO needs to be coming to the table, because everybody is a part of that business and a part of making things happen. And so I've seen specifically at companies like a Barry's where people are just left in wherever their sections are. So if the facilities is in the back, everybody else in the front getting coffee from a company like Cologne or something like that, they're forgotten about in the back. Or you have a woman who is a Black woman who speaks up about diversity and things like that, but it's just a thought and not acted upon. And you have people who walk into the space who we know, like it might be a Black American or it might be an Asian American, something like that we know, but they use us to bring them in, to have a conversation with, to try to lure them in. And I'm like, no, all the managers, everybody in the studio across this space should be connecting with each other. So just because I'm the Black girl in the studio, I don't have to talk to the Black person that walked through the door. Of course, it's a natural thing, but this is where you start. You start to have conversations with strangers and people that you don't know, because it's space for all of us. And so, that's one of the things that I would love to see, especially in Chicago, because it's such a diverse community and cultures. And I mean, the neighborhoods are right on top of each other. So many cultures and things like that is, brands and companies, you guys need to do better. And especially on the local level, like, Nike up here, y'all might be great and doing some really cool things. And then y'all images and pictures got things going on. But on the local level, brands and companies need to wake up. You guys need to have definitely a more diverse team than what you guys represent and what you guys are representing right now. And so I think it's definitely time to make some shifts and to really genuinely sit down and figure out where you have been a part of this, what's been going on, and just figuring out like where you genuinely and can be of use, and the genuine conversations that you really need to have. And it's not necessarily with somebody like me, but it's definitely with people who call the shots, or your family members that have felt certain type of ways for so long. And you know, it just starts there. And so that's why, like I said, that's why we are having these conversations right now, just to really get things out, and just starting in that space first, and then really genuinely moving forward. Because as we hear a lot of these PR campaigns and people kind of just slapping another Band-Aid on top of it, like people have been doing for years, but really just getting to the core of everything first is the most important thing. And if that is really just having a couple of committees and just having conversations for a couple of months, if that's what it takes right now to really talk it all out and then move forward, then that's what it may look like. But I know for myself, I do, as far as like the fitness world, running world, things like that, I've touched a lot of these worlds, and it's a lot of work to do. And I think that the time is now to get into these groups, these committees, and figure some things out, and genuinely work forward. And it's not going to just happen overnight. And another question that I have for you ladies before we move forward is, how have you already been a change agent in the industry or in your workplace? So I know you guys mentioned a couple of the things that you guys have going on, but just talk to us a little bit about, even more about, like, hey, if you have this company and what you're doing and what you have done, and what maybe you might be working towards right now.
I've been focusing a lot of time on Instagram, which feels really disgusting and really 2020. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not in love with this whole idea of an influencer and what that actually means. So like, take it with a grain of salt. But it is what it is, and Instagram is a community, and it is a way to have a voice and build a community, especially when you can't be in person. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to repeat what I've been saying for the past few years, now that everyone seems to be listening, and really trying to bring to light some of the things that are problematic about the way studios are operating, and how the hiring practices and the recruiting practices and all those things are kind of really problematic. I am very, very anxious for schools to reopen, because I really believe that part of the best way I can continue this work is through working with kids and helping them to realize their potential, and that that race doesn't have to be something that holds them back. I mean, even that coming out of my mouth, knowing that it's a reality, just feels, when you're looking at a 6-year-old, right, in kindergarten, like, how could you possibly tell them that what they look like could be a detriment to who they want to become, or that their lifespan may be shortened because of what they look like? It doesn't even make sense coming out of my mouth. So I just hope to continue with that. It's not some profound thing, but I really just, in the most meaningful way, want to continue pulling people together that have open hearts and open minds, and doing what I can.
Okay, as for me, what I've been doing, honestly, I have started in my home. So I have started by, not sure what he's saying, but I have just decided just to teach my kids even more, because I've already done it, but maybe not as much as I should have, just teaching them that we all have differences. I've been buying different books for them, and just teaching them that, love everyone, like my main thing is just love. Like, I don't want to teach my kids to have any aggression towards anybody or hate. It's really all about just loving everyone. And that's just major to me. Like, my kids, like how I'm bringing them up, that's important, because I mean, I want them to be people in this world that do good. And along with that, I have considered also reaching out to youth because, like Ashley said, there are a lot of communities out here that have underserved children that really do need those confidence boosters, those life skills. People teaching them that they are enough. Like right now, I feel like some kids probably just don't think they're enough. With everything going on, they're probably like, oh, so like I'm not good enough to do this or that. And we have to reiterate that you can do anything. And I know it sounds cliche, but I'm sure that there are children out here that believe that they can't, or they have given themselves a ceiling because I'm sorry. He's one. We're just going to get you down. But they've given themselves a ceiling just based on, their social, not socioeconomic background, but just the demographic that they live in, basically. And people, we need change agents to go into these smaller communities and to help these children. So I've considered doing that, but yeah, first I want to start in my house, and then, I will serve other communities as well, because it's important. Just seeing everything that is played out like over the past 10 years, just all the brutal killings, like it makes you feel awful. And then to have children and you're like, will my children end up being like that? Like, I don't want my children to be discriminated against or unfairly picked on or killed. Like, it is so horrifying to think about. And so, I've just started teaching them. My battery's about to die, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I know you got to head out too for the evening. So I really appreciate you, Ashley, for joining us tonight and adding your thoughts and having this conversation with us. I really, really do. But I know you got to go to your mom. So so I'm gonna let you get to that. So if everybody just want to wave at Ashley, wave bye.
Bye, guys.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes. And I'll talk to you. Thank you so much again. Really, really appreciate it.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so we went a little over the time that we wanted to, but I really just wanted to make sure that these conversations are just literally letting us be real and kind of just get whatever we need to say out. Everything might not be as fluent and as politically correct and things like that, but we just want to make sure that you guys are really hearing this, because this is probably the first time a lot of you guys have heard a lot of Black women, or definitely people that aren't your friends, really have these conversations. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it over to Gina so we can hop into the training portion of our conversation tonight.
All right, I'm going to go so quickly. Oh, thanks, Kelly, for spotlighting me. I'm going to go super quickly through my slides, but what I'm going to talk about today is really kind of laddering onto what Marquita, Ashley, and Ashley were talking about. And all of them sort of referenced it, like the big, like, why are they doing what they're doing? Like, why does it matter that they show up in these photo shoots, in these studios? Because they want to see themselves represented, and they want to see themselves in future generations. They're creating a better future. So what we'll talk about is that why. And I also, like Marquita, you do not need to apologize for any moment of political incorrectness ever. So I'm going to hit share on my screen. Christiana said that first, but I just want to reiterate it. I'm going to share my screen and present. I think I can do it better this week than last week. Within the PowerPoint today, you will see one short movie and a reference to one of my favorite podcasts. All right, so we're talking about knowing your why. Last week we talked about Having sort of listening. This layers on to listening, but honestly, you don't need last week for this week. And your why is really that sort of underhanging, like what really matters, what gives you fire, what fuels your soul so you can keep going, even when you're not feeling optimistic, even when things seem rough. So here's the problem. Science shows that changing someone's opinion that they already hold is incredibly difficult. And that's important to this moment right now, because a lot of these difficult conversations that we're having with people who have like deeply held beliefs. They might be family members, they might be people that look like us, they might be people that don't look like us. And when we decide like, we want to be a voice for change, change takes time. So let's quickly listen to 2 little clips from This American Life. You're going to get not Guy Raz. Right? Was I right? Whatever. We'll get his soothing voice. I blanked on the name. I'll think of it.
Okay, take a second right now and just think about this. When it comes to the big hot button issues, I mean, climate change and gun control and abortion rights and school vouchers and affirmative action and Obamacare. Okay, do you know anybody who has changed their minds? I mean, who firmly was on one side of the issue and then they like read a story in the New York Times or they heard something on Rush Limbaugh and now they are firmly on the other side? I'm just gonna guess like probably not, right? In fact, the opposite happens. There's this thing called the Backfire Effect. It's been documented in all kinds of studies. It shows that when we're confronted with evidence disproving what we believe, generally we just dig in and we believe it more. And the rare times that people do change, it's slow. You don't just, have an argument with your uncle over the invasion of Iraq over dinner, and then at the end of dinner, one of you goes like, okay, I no longer believe what I did. You're right. People just don't flip like that.
This was not to bum you out, friends. This was to give you sort of that fuel, that overhanging belief that it takes time. This all takes time. These conversations take time. And one of the key ways to keep going is to have that why. No, don't you do it. Don't you do it to me. What's that I can't think of. So the challenges to persuasion are 4-fold. The first one is just your own anxiety. Whatever it is that might be holding you back from even starting the conversation. Like, are you uncomfortable? Have you never had a conversation like this before? Are you asking a big question that might be freaking you out? That could hold you back from even starting the conversation in the first place. Your interpersonal differences. If you're coming from totally different backgrounds, one of you is from a small town, one of you has sort of that big intersectional experience that you don't have. You might have totally different opinions because of those things. Fractured political context. And that's referencing like we're all getting our information from different places. People have less and less trust in the media. That can lead to a discord and just challenge in general to persuading people. If they don't believe the facts that you're telling them, they're going to be less likely to believe you in general. And the final one is the ask associated. So if you're talking to someone and asking them to change your mind, what's the next step? Is it that they join you in signing a petition? Is it that they join you in a march? Or is it that they just continue the conversation with you? The harder the ask, the more challenging the ask, the more challenging it is to change hearts and minds. That's why we lean into cutting through the noise, because we lean more heavily on the head and the heart. This deck, I would be remiss not to tell you, is from OFA, and it really leans heavily into hearts and minds and changing those hearts and minds. And knowing your why and using your why is one big way to have that conversation that can actually get to the heart, that can actually share your heart, use your vulnerability to open yourself up so that someone else can open up too. My dog has chosen now to talk. But let's talk about how we have these powerful conversations. The answer is we start with why. So there's a famous book by Simon Sinek. I busted it out because I have it too. It's backwards to you. And I'm going to play a clip from it because it's deeply powerful and it draws sort of that central why tenet that we're going to use for the rest of this. And Maverick will continue to sing.
About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way. And it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we're better. And we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me?
All right, there are like 30 more seconds, but he says the same basic point. I'll jump ahead. If you want, no, Simon Sinek. If you want the slides from me afterwards, I can share them with you. So that golden circle gives us sort of our 3 key principles of communicating with people who don't agree with us. We start with why. And the why comes from something deep within you. It is your cause, your belief, the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. The most defining piece of your fiber. So for me, it might be like, I want to leave the world more connected than when I got here. That for me is my defining belief. And that is really adaptable to anything you do or say. Your why should overhang everything. It's connected to your values and belief. It's really hard to understand about yourself. It's also really hard to communicate. But once you get it, you get it. From there, you say your how. This is sort of like your strategy, your game plan. Now that you know what your why is, how do you get there? If for example, your why was like mine, I want to leave the world more connected than when I got here. Being more connected doesn't mean only connecting with people who look like me. So it's my job as a leader of an organization to figure out, to push people to make the leap. That's the how. We have to push people to take the leap together. And it should be easily explained. And then from there, that's the what? The action you're asking people to take. This is the easiest part, but it should come last. You've pulled on their heartstrings, you've engaged their minds, and then hit them with the ask. What can they do to be a part of what it is that you care about? And then they'll join your what. And if you're having trouble, we're gonna pause here. If you're having trouble coming up with your why, I'm going to jump to here. Think about a critical incident that defines who you are as a person, or what you think most specifically to this conversation about race in America and about race and wellness. If you think back to one incident that changed the way you think about wellness, or changed the way you felt when you walked into a room, that can be your critical incident. It could be Ashley's conversation about being the only white woman on set, or Ashley's, so many Ashleys today, Ashley's conversation about being one of the only faces in a sea of SoulCycle instructors. Those are powerful critical incident stories that can get you to your why. So from there, there's much more we could talk about when it comes to this, but I want to make sure that we get to the group discussion.
All right. All right, folks are back. Small groups. Awesome. Cool. Well, I really hope that those small groups were beneficial and a space for everybody to kind of just get to know each other a little bit more and kind of talk about those things. And those questions that we pose, take those into the groups and committees and the places and spaces that are outside of aSweatLife, because that's a big part of what we're doing too, is making sure that even our conversation, now you feel like you may have connections or tools or even just thoughts, ideas, reason to go into the spaces and places that you want to make change at, is a really big part of why we are doing this, because we can't touch everybody, and just because you may want to see change, you might be involved in a workplace or a space that isn't necessarily doing what you want to see, and maybe this is something that's been on your heart for a while, like I said at the beginning of this. And so I'm hoping that we are providing some of the insight, some of the information to help you move forward. And more than anything too, we talk about change agents, we talk a lot about allies, we talk about all these things. And so more importantly, we just need everybody to take you to a next step when it comes to, you are a listening ear for your small friends group and that text group, or, your friends can vent to you, but now it's about taking it up to the next level. So we want you guys to be loud, just like we are loud for ourselves in the Black community. We need these allies, these change agents, and people just as loud as we are when it comes to moving forward and pressing and putting the pressure on your bosses in your workplaces and these committees and clubs and organizations you're a part of. As moving forward when it comes to change. I'm a part of a couple of organizations in Chicago where I work with children and youth in the fitness and wellness space. And I agree when it comes to what Ashley Weaver said, and even Mitchell, where, we are creating things. We've been in that space because we know that it is a need. We need to start from when they're young to instill in them the things that are important for them to not repeat the things that we've been repeating as a cycle. And so we need you all to be in that space with us, and not just kind of like be like, hey, just check off like, hey, that was my one good deed for the day or the week or the month or these past couple of months, but it's something that is a passion moving forward. And so, that's all I got. I really hope that this is a space for all of us, even any of the African-American people that are watching and listening in. I hope that this is a therapeutic space for you, and a space if you feel like you want to connect with any of us at all. We're uplifting you, we're inspiring you, and for everybody else that's listening in that is supporting us, we're trying to move forward together, so let's do this. And I think that's all I got. I think what time we got. Oh man, it's 7:29. So that means we are doing a great job with staying on top of time. Ashley, I really, really appreciate you, Ashley Mitchell, for hanging out with us and being here. You got anything you want to add before we step out and finish up whatever we're going to do the rest of the evening?
No, I appreciate being a part of this, and thank you for finding me and inviting me into your community. And this is the best step one that I think I can imagine, just having conversation and being honest and being open and just being
being ready for change, because it's coming. So we might as well all, you know, be on the same page and all try to create something better. So thank you.
Exactly. Well, I'm right there with you. So I appreciate you guys again tonight. We have part 3 next week, next Monday, same time and place. Join us. We'll have some people that you guys are familiar with, like I mentioned, Kellen, soul cycle instructor, known in Chicago in particular, and some of you guys might know him outside of Chicago as well. And the other the past clips, like part 1, then today's part 2, will be available on aSweatLife's YouTube page. So that'll be a space. Just to give you guys a heads up, an email will be sent out with some action things for us for this week moving forward. So keep your eyes out for that. Because if you're a part of our community, we want you to join in what we are moving forward with for an action piece during this time. And like I said, I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a blessed and amazing and productive week.